Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the planning board meeting for June 7th, 2022. My name is Carrie Marnick. I'm chair of the planning board. Before we get started, I'd like to read a few announcements. This open meeting of the planning board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16th, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the planning board are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the planning board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. I'm confirming now board members and persons anticipated on the agenda are remotely present and can be heard by saying the following. Members, and I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Amy Paretsky?
Here.
Anthony Zaitin?
Here.
Bill Pierce?
Here.
And staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bob Federico?
Here.
Lori Connors?
Yes.
And Fred
Here.
Litchfield. And
Here, I'm here.
all right, we got you. Okay, ground rules for the meeting. For presenters and applicants on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly in a way that helps to generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call vote. For public comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please note party or phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, the chair will call on each by name and afford approximately 3 minutes for any comments. So with that, why don't we get started with tonight's agenda? First on the agenda, we welcome Norm Corbin to present the Historical Commission plan. Are you presenting, it's chapter 7 of the plan, Norm, that you're going to focus on this evening?
No, we focused on chapter 7, almost 2 months ago?
Yep.
So we reviewed it at that time, and there were no real comments at that time, but if there are some now, that's fine. That's actually that is the detailed preservation plan. The other chapters are background information on the town and the like. So can I share screen? If I can pull that up just real quick.
Absolutely. Let's see. You should be able to. Do you see share
I
screen?
see share screen. I clicked on it and let's see what it does. Where am I going? Do you see anything? That's a table, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Let me go somewhere else. I want to go to the beginning. All right. So I just want to focus right now on the outline. I don't want to take a lot of your time tonight. Main reason I'm with you is you haven't seen, at least you haven't commented on the entire contents of the preservation plan, just on what I highlighted on chapter 7.
Mhm.
So what I'm really looking for tonight is basic comments, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do we have a lot more work to do? What's missing? That kind of thing. And any edits, and I know Amy had a few, those will be beneficial too. But we have gone through a lot of editing with the Historical Society. Kathy Pierce worked for the TNG, and she really did a thorough review of a lot of grammar and punctuation. So that was very beneficial.
Okay.
So why don't we start with the preservation plan itself? Were there any comments on that section? It was driven by the master plan, and it was written just like the master plan. We've used tables from the master plan to highlight what our activities are and the like.
I thought it looked really good, really thorough.
Well, we're very, the timing was perfect with the master plan. It forced us to think these things through.
I had a couple comments, but I don't want to, if there are certain things you wanted to point out.
No, this is what I'm here for.
Okay. So I also, oh, so first of all, board members, any other comments? Amy, you had some, any others from Bill or Anthony? I don't see Millie here. Yeah. So any comments from either of you?
No, only I'd say or mirror what Amy said. It is extremely thorough and well done.
Yeah, and this is really thorough.
Well, there's never been a historic preservation plan for the town of Northborough, and that was kind of the driver for picking at a lot of this old history, because some of it, like a lot of the information on the preserving Northborough history, came out of the files from the Historical Society, which nobody really has seen before. So we kind of went out of our way to dig through some old history to get it documented better. Does everyone not, if anybody ever does another one of these in 10 years, you can eliminate most of this and just do chapter 7. So it's kind of our thought process.
Okay, and so no further comments or questions from board members. I have a couple, or anything from staff?
I thought that you folks did a really nice job. I did as I was going through, because I can't help it. My mother was a school teacher, so I did make some suggested changes on grammar and punctuation, but it sounds like those changes were probably already covered.
Well, I wouldn't know that. Is there a way, how did you do the edits?
I pretty much just wrote them as I went along. It's much easier for me to download the document and read it as a plan in my hands in a comfortable chair than it is for me to sit at the computer. So I'd be happy to send those along to you if it would be helpful.
Why don't you, next time you're at town hall, let me know and I can pick it up from you? That would be pretty easy.
Yeah, sure. That would be fine.
Are you at town hall on a regular schedule now, or?
Yeah. I'll be there this week. Of course, I buzz in and out. Occasionally I have site visits and off-site meetings. But
you can just leave it with Michelle.
Okay.
And I could pick it up from her. That'd be very helpful, Laurie. Yes, I definitely want to see your comments and edits. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm an engineer, so I don't, it's a different thing altogether.
Well, overall, it was very well written.
Thank you.
Okay, I just had a couple of questions and comments, and maybe some of it was just as a follow-up from the last time we met and took a look at this, just taking a closer look. One, I was wondering, is there any opportunity for some of the things you have listed that were maybe smaller items? Is there any opportunity for ARPA funds, or just not necessarily, could even make the connection that would make sense for that?
There may be some possibilities. Keep in mind this, the way we did this document, essentially it ended on December 31st, 2021. Because
Right.
otherwise we'd be constantly updating it. So opera came after that time. So there's no mention of opera in here or anything like that. I think there are possibilities. We haven't looked at it that way, but some of these things need funding and some of them might be substantial.
Right.
But that's
Okay, just a thought. Not that
that's a good one.
there were just some little things in there that I wondered maybe it would be a candidates for. And then the piece, I think we highlighted this last time as well, but just in terms of, and I don't think, Laura, you were here the last time we looked at this, so it may be good to just call out the okay. So the use of zoning bylaws to protect historical properties. So that's in here, which is great. How do we implement that through, do we set any sort of milestones? I think the last time we talked, it wasn't going to be this town meeting, but maybe the one after. So how do we just make sure we keep in touch? So if there are things that are needed that the planning board is scheduling to have that prepped for whatever is needed for bylaw amendments or anything like that, is that part of what the master plan committee would help build out timeline wise?
Well, I think the way it would, I know my best resource for this is the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Our new contact here, Jen Doherty, had mentioned that there are other ways of skinning the cat in terms of protecting some properties. And I'd go to her. This will start with going to her to ask for towns that have done other things. I mean, to be honest, it's all in my mind. It's about downtown. So I'd like her to guide us through that process. And then of course it has to come through planning board and all of that review. But right now I don't know the creative alternatives are.
Okay, Amy, you had something to that end?
Yeah, I have one that I'd like to bring up. We have a zone in downtown called Main Street Residential, and it goes from the library down to Stone's Motorcycle Shop. And those are the historical homes. And originally in our bylaws, it said that duplexes were only allowed by conversion. But then that footnote was taken out over the years. And I'm wondering if that's another footnote that shouldn't have been taken out if we're trying to preserve the historical homes. And another way to try to preserve them is a lot of the historical homes there are multi-family dwellings. They're like four apartments. But in our bylaws right now, we don't allow multi-family dwellings in Main Street Residential. So I was wondering if there's a way to allow like those homes to become apartments so someone wouldn't tear it down. It would make it more beneficial to them to keep it as a one whole house. So, I mean, those are just my ideas. I don't know how the apartments got in the homes to begin with, but maybe that should be an option for people versus tearing down the older homes. And the same thing with the duplexes. So you don't tear it down and then build up modern duplex. You have to leave the footprint and leave the outside.
And I think with, I'm really anxious to hear how the downtown RFP is going to come out and who's going to be handling that, because
Yep.
I think that anybody who's done this before, look at Laurie for that, knows some of the ways of approaching this. And I think we'll learn a lot with that, with their guidance too.
Yep. It was just taken out and I, at the time, didn't think it probably should have taken out.
Just, I've been communicating with the Master Plan Implementation Committee because of the downtown interest. And I sent something over to both the chair and the vice chair. My mind just went blank, but there's over 120 houses and buildings in the downtown area, not just on Main Street, that are listed as historical assets. So it's actually our most sensitive area of town with antiques. And the only building that is protected is the Historical Society building. That's the only one that has some level of protection. That's a flag. It's like, okay, how do we handle? How do we make sure we can keep that whole district together?
Yep. And that is a district too, general residential.
Yeah.
So you could use Main Street Residential and general residential.
Okay, so Norm, it sounds like you have a path for how you want to approach it, but obviously this board is in support of working with you with whatever you need to brainstorm or come together, and Laurie obviously as well. So we don't have to solve it now, but for whatever comes up, you have board support. One other question I had, and one part I wanted to bring up for Laurie to be aware of, you mentioned the being a certified local government. It seemed like there were some benefits associated with that. But one thing you seemed to tie to it, and I wasn't sure if it was actually tied to it or if we could just do this anyway, was related to the notification of antique demolition. So I just want to clarify, we don't have to be a certified local government. It was just all within the same section. So it seemed like, are those two separate things? So Laurie, in the past, there just has been like a disjointed communication when there are those antique demolitions, and we're talking before about ways where we can just make sure everybody's aware of when it's happening and what's happening. But Norm, are those two separate things? You don't have to be a local certified government for that.
They're totally separate things. I do not know anything about the certified local government that was put in by VHB. They strongly recommend we do something like that. And that's something in my mind, it's something we need to learn about.
Okay, I wonder about that because it seemed like extra work.
Yeah, and I don't know what the benefits are. I'm not sure what the benefits are. So that's, we put everything down that it's come up, and we just have to figure out which ones we need to delve into. As it stands right now, any building that's over 100 years old, pretty much we could be placed on a 180-day demolition delay using our current bylaw. So those are separate topics.
Okay.
And I had not previously come across that certified local government, so that's something that I am not familiar with, other than what I saw here.
My recollection is the cities, some of them have it, like Salem and maybe Concord and Framingham. So, but I'd be curious to know if towns have it. It sounds like it could be cumbersome if we're not careful.
Unless you get to pick all your own historical assets.
Well, we do pick all, I mean, we pick them. We've decided that they would be applied to buildings that are 100 years old or older. The state of Massachusetts wants us to include any buildings that are 50 years or older. We decided not to do that at this time.
Okay,
Think about that.
got it. Okay, any other questions or comments from board members or staff members? Okay, so Norm, do you need anything from us? Any sort of memo or any sort of thumbs up, endorsement, vote? What would be helpful?
A thumbs up. Just, recognizing you've reviewed it, you've given us comments, we're on the right track. Because what you're looking at is what the document you have is like 97% done, but because of the other inputs we've got, we're close to 99.5% done. So I think if you say this looks good, we're in good shape.
Okay, is that a thumbs up from all board members? Anthony, yes.
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Carrie is a yes. And I don't see Millie still, but I'm sure she's well aware and in full support as well. So.
And
This
while
is
we
great.
have Laurie's attention, I'd like Laurie as the town planner to
Oh, of course.
even give us
Laurie,
a
thumbs
yes
up.
about your edits.
Yes, I would be happy to provide those to you, Norm. And absolutely, I'm in full support of the document. So
Thank you very
good
much.
job.
We're anxious to get this down and dusted, as they say in the UK.
All
So
right.
do you want me to do a support letter for the planning board? Is that something that would be helpful for you to include with the document?
That actually would be nice. I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
Okay.
that would be very beneficial. Stick that in there, no problem at all. That'd be great.
Happy to do it.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for your support and enjoy the rest of the evening.
All right. Thanks, Norm. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Norm. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's see. Next on our agenda, we have the continued public hearing for 87 Hudson Street, special permit per groundwater protection overlay district bylaw and special permit site plan approval. So why don't we bring everyone in for that?
Millie mentioned she's in as an attendant.
Oh, okay. Let's see. She must be the phone number.
I think it ends in, is there 808 or,
Nope.
oh, maybe something different. But she did just text me.
Okay. Oh, I see her number. I think that's it. Mhm. All right, we're gonna bring Millie over. And I see Marshall Gould. Oh, wait, actually, I'm not sure. Gould and Ettenberg, I assume is all the same. And then Marshall Gould is here again.
I'm only here once.
Oh, you are? Okay. Let's see. I don't know what the other one is. There is another Marshall Gould listed.
I logged in once, Kerry. If I have to, I'll log back in and you can cut them both out.
All right, well, why don't we see what this
I
is?
think I'm on for Gould and Ettenberg, probably.
Oh, yep. Okay. And then there's a.
Probably me, Barry.
Oh, okay. All right. That's Barry then.
Oh, you know what? I sent the notice to them and they probably used my login info.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And then we have Tom. All right. I think, is that everybody? Is there anyone else on your team?
Do you have?
Oops.
I am now unmuted. Do you have Tom Reardon?
I thought so. Tom. Oops. What happened to Tom?
You have, well, Marshall Gould is Barry. I don't see myself here.
I see Tom's name.
Oh, there
just
I
don't
am.
see his
I'm up
picture.
top as Gould and Ettenberg.
Okay. I see.
Barry, I
that-
never looked that good.
I was thinking the same thing.
I there's a blank one that's not, oh, there's Tom.
There's Tom.
So Tom's here. And Millie, I just want to confirm that we can hear you, and that is you, as a matter of fact. I'm just going to ask to unmute you.
I believe on the phone it's *6 to unmute.
Let's see. Just give Millie a minute.
She said *6 isn't working.
Oh.
Jim, is there a way you can, or you can't when she's on a phone?
No,
Unmute.
unfortunately, it's all on the user's end. I would recommend if she has a smartphone, she can download the Zoom app for the phone, and that works a little differently than calling in. So that may be another option.
Okay. Maybe she can hear, but she can't unmute, I think.
When we send her the ask to unmute, is she getting like a voice giving her instructions?
We'll see. She said she thinks she has to opt out to go on without her, but I don't think we can go on without her.
Yeah.
Well, try having her do *9. And so let's
Okay.
see if the raise your hand function works. And Amy, what's ask Millie what the best email address for her is, and I'll reach out to her via email.
Okay. I think she can hear you. So Millie,
Okay.
if you
Yeah,
can
Millie,
hear,
if you can email me. I don't know if you have my email.
she's texting something right now. She said she's sorry. She's trying to get it to connect. I'm assuming that she's emailing Jim. Did you get anything from her, Jim? I haven't heard anything.
Yep, yeah, no, she just emailed me. So I'm gonna
Okay.
try to work something out now.
Okay. She said she called you, Jim, and it went straight to your voicemail, or she got your voicemail.
Hi, Carrie. So do you need Millie in the meeting right now, or do I have like 5-10 minutes to work with her and try to get the Zoom app downloaded?
So Millie needs to vote in this, and so she needs to be a part of the hearing to vote, and we need her vote.
Okay,
So
Um,
we'll just be
now-
delayed.
okay. Yeah, so I'm on the phone with her now. We can't get the phone to work, so we would probably have to download the Zoom app. So it would take probably roughly 5 minutes to do.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll be working with her in the meantime.
Do you want to just take a break?
yeah, we can either take the, yeah, I think there's really nothing else on the agenda besides just dates and nothing else. We don't have minutes or anything else, so why don't we take a 5-minute break and come back at 6:40.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks.
Hi, Carrie, are you there?
Yes, yes, I am.
So Millie's, she said she's connecting to another internet connection right now, but she's going to try calling in one more time. We're unfortunately not able to do the workaround. So she's going to try calling in again, but she'll be listening. So I don't know how you'd like to proceed with that.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we get her hooked back in and see where we're at once that happens.
Millie said she got in, but she still can't unmute.
Okay. So Lori, what are our options? Can Millie sit through and listen to the hearing and then we'll just have to, can we close it and then vote when she's able to join us, or how do we best optimize our time?
Unfortunately, with her not being able to actively participate, then we really can't hear her testimony. So probably the best thing to do is just continue the public hearing to a future meeting. I don't know what else to do. Could she try getting in via her laptop? Because sometimes that works.
Amy, are you talking with her?
I
Yeah, I'll
believe,
ask her.
I believe all she has is her cell phone.
I think she's traveling.
Since I can't be part of this anyways, does it make sense to just have her call me? And then I'll just turn my phone and she can talk through my microphone?
So
Okay.
we've done that in the past and it does create a lot of echoing. It definitely isn't the best option. There's a lot of, other things we got to do with the sound and stuff too. So I don't know if that's really a viable option.
Okay.
And I suppose she can't participate by typing in
We
the
don't have
chat,
chat. We
and
don't
there
have-
is no chat.
We don't have chat.
Yeah, because you really need a supermajority vote. Because this is a special permit. So if she's not able to participate, then I wouldn't recommend proceeding.
Okay. I'm sorry about this, guys. I don't know what to do. Seems like it's best to not present without her, so we don't run into trouble.
Can I just ask a question to the chair, if I may?
Sure.
Thank you. I understand you're having a meeting on July 14th. Would you have room on the agenda for this at that time?
Yes,
Sure. We do also have a meeting prior to that. We have one on,
the 21st.
sorry, June 21st. And we could accommodate you on that meeting agenda if you'd like.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be away
Okay,
and I won't.
we can definitely put you on July 14th. Right at the very beginning at 6 p.m.
And I think another matter of mine is on that same evening, if I'm not mistaken. I sent you the letter for one on Barefoot Road. I don't know
Yes.
the number off the top of my head. Is that already scheduled? Because I know that was continued also.
So that one is scheduled for June 21st. So they have to open the public hearing on June 21st and then continue it to the July 14th meeting. So we can't continue that tonight because it's already been
I
advertised.
understand. Will you be able to open and continue that without my presence or my client's presence?
Yes, yes, because
I
you
think I had
provided
already
an
given you a
email.
letter. Yeah.
Yeah, if you do it in writing, I think that's fine. We'll just vote on it and continue.
Could I ask just two more questions? One is, Lori, did you get the plan that I sent you this afternoon and an easement deed that I sent you this afternoon?
I did. I could not see them on my phone, but I did forward them to the planning board members. So everybody should have those in their email box if they haven't seen them already.
Okay, so without giving detailed information, if Millie's not part of it, I would just ask if you all got the email and whether you were able to open it or whether I should deliver copies to everybody.
Does that include the plan too, Marshall?
The plan was actually attached Well, we have two things. One is the new site plan that was cleaned up so as to not show all the lines of
Yeah.
the drainage areas, the detention basins or ponds, and the driveway. A question was raised, I believe, by Amy, and we wanted to be responsive, Amy, as to what the
So
sidewalk
Marshall,
was.
I just want to ask you, please don't go into any
Okay,
of the
you're right.
presentation.
I just, okay, you're right. And I just want to make sure that they have that. That's all.
Just wait 1 or 2 minutes. Millie texted that she grabbed someone else's laptop and she's trying to connect.
Oh,
So she
okay.
said, just wait 2 minutes. She wants to see if it works,
Okay.
since we're all still here. Sorry. She said she feels really bad.
We understand that happens.
To answer your question, though, we did receive and were able, well, I was able to open those two documents you referenced.
Thank you.
She's typing something. Waiting. She said the login connection is really slow, so I don't know what that means if it's not connecting.
All right, why don't, unless, I hate to continue to make you guys wait here. Is it your preference? Do you want to give it a couple minutes or do you want to?
If you don't mind, I'd like to give it a couple minutes since everybody is here.
Okay.
But if you feel you want to continue, we understand, Kerry.
No, I feel badly that you're kind of stuck here in limbo, so we'll.
Don't
we'll
worry
give it a
about us.
couple- Oh, there she is.
Ah,
All right, Millie, we can see you, but we just have to be able to hear you.
Okay.
Oh, we can hear you, Millie.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh my God. I am so sorry.
Thanks
Okay.
for figuring
I'm
out a
here.
plan. Okay. All right, so we're back in business. We have everybody, yes, everybody's here. So Marshall, you just mentioned that you had a couple of documents that you shared today. Is that something you want to speak to or pull up on
I'd be
your?
happy to. One is a site plan. It didn't have all of the information on it last time. To refresh your memory, back in February, there was an ANR plan presented. This lot was originally about 21 or 22,000 square feet, and an ANR plan was presented, and the owner acquired the additional land to bring this lot up to 30,000. Unfortunately, on the site plan last hearing, when Barry pulled up the pages, the first plan showed existing conditions with the house, the garage, and the driveway. The second plan showed the duplex, and it showed the driveway, and it showed the walkways, and it showed the detention areas, and there were many, many lines on it. And one of the problems was in the rear, he was actually showing the old lot line as a dotted line, and it did not convey the whole lot. And Carrie, out of respect to you, you were indicating that you felt it was too big for the lot. And I was looking at it between the last hearing and now, and I was thinking, I don't often see it so cluttered. So Tom and I spoke to Barry, and we said, although you recite that the lot is 30,000, you were not showing it. You were really only showing it as about a 21,000 square foot lot. So now you can see the rear yard here. The lot is now 30,000 square feet. The zone has a required frontage of 150 for a duplex, and we have 170. And it was difficult in a two-dimensional drawing without it being, all drawn up as house and everything and the other things. It all looked like just a bunch of lines. So I asked Barry to make clear what the size of the house was, and that's what this is doing. This is not showing the driveway or the walkway to the street, but it is, and nor is it showing the detention areas up in the corners, front corners, but it does show that the house is exactly as you see it, and it does show the sideline dimensions, and it's pretty small there, but I can tell you, as you look from the street at the house, it is 33 feet away from the lot line, and on the left, it is 36 feet away from the lot line, and that is quite a bit. That's more than 3 times the distance of number 91, which is to the right. They only have a 10-foot sideline. And as you go over to the left, the property at 83 Hudson, that has 25 feet. So we were hearing what you were saying, Millie, about the size, and we weren't thinking the size was too big. So we wanted to show you to a true scale compared to the other properties where the house was. Now, the lot is 20 feet wider. The house is wide, and the reason they've made the house wide is because you can see by the topography lines in the back, they did not want to cut deeply into that hill. So, and they also wanted to give a backyard. So that is the way that it shows up the best. The other document, I believe it was Amy who indicated that the site plan, Barry, can you pull that up on the screen showing where some of the site work was going on to 91 Hudson Street? Amy, I don't know if you remembered, but again, as you're looking from the street, the area that was going to be cut a little bit into the hill extended a little bit over to number 91.
Yep.
And you said, how can you do that? So at the time, the person who owns this also owned that lot. And so what he did was he created an easement from the entity that owns that lot to the entity that owns number 87. And that's the easement deed that I sent you. It is a permanent easement for, on the last page of that deed, for the drainage easement, and in the common boundary line back where Barry is pointing, Amy is correct that there was some temporary grading and construction going on. So that's what this easement deed was. You requested that on May 17th, and it was, he had indicated he was doing it anyway. He had a different attorney than me. who was doing his real estate work. So we found out that that was already ready to go. So he just recorded that on May 19th. And so I gave you a copy of it to show you that there's no problem with that easement. I wanted to make sure in particular that Amy got it, but also every member of the board. Okay?
Yep, thank
The
you.
other thing, if we could go back to the first plan again that we had up there showing the building on the 30,000 square foot lot. Barry, I don't know if you did that or if Laurie had it up or how it was done.
I had it up, but there it is. I think.
Okay,
Barry must
thank
have
you.
it.
So right now, I want you to understand again, because Kerry had mentioned concern about the size. So I want you to know that the footprint of this building is, as we described it last time, 3,416, and the lot is 30,000 square feet. So the lot coverage is really only about 11 1/3%. And I wanted to point that out. But in fairness to all of you, the plan that you were looking at on the screen last time with all of those lines did make it look like there was a lot of clutter and that it was overcrowded. But now I hope that we can show you that it is not.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to go back and present it this way. It definitely looks a lot cleaner, so I appreciate that, and
Sure.
for hearing our concerns and coming back with a couple of different things here. Does anyone have questions about what we're looking at or comments?
No,
I don't-
I also thank Marshall for coming back with the explanations.
Of course, and frankly, I thought, Amy, your point was very well taken. But I would like to say one other thing. My client is on a plane right now returning home. He was delayed. He's on a plane back from Detroit. He's not able to get here in time for the hearing. But I did talk to him after the last hearing. He told me he was going to be away and he thought he might be back in time. But he spoke to me today and said he would be unable to be back. And he asked me to please extend, in particular to you, Kerry, as the chair, but to any members of the planning board that may have been insulted or offended when he came on a little strong. He asked me to extend his apology, and he said it was clearly frustration because it had taken so long and he had been to so many meetings already. And in his mind, he assumed that either at the first meeting or at the second meeting that it would be taken care of. I haven't known Mr. Bishop for a long time, but I've spoken to him many times in the last 2 months, and I can assure you he is a gentleman and he did not mean to offend anybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone have questions, or Lori, do you have further questions about what we're looking at or the easement or anything else from our outstanding items?
I do not.
Okay. Board members, it looks like no additional. Amy, did you say something else?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm all set.
Okay, any comments in general or thoughts on, does this, in looking at this version of it here a little cleaner, does this alleviate some concerns for anyone who is concerned with size? Or any comments there? And feel free, I can't see everyone at the same time, so just feel free to say something. Okay. Okay, I don't have further comments either. I think it's very helpful to see this. Thank you. And in terms of my only question with the easement that we have is that it's difficult for me to know if, I mean, this looks good to me, but I don't really fully understand exactly what I'm reading. So I'm wondering if we do have a proposed condition that we would review the easement as a condition. Could we also just have council take a quick look as well to just read through it? Because otherwise we're just looking at something we may not fully understand.
Sure, I could absolutely do that.
So I think for the applicants, we had some conditions that we talked through. And then, of course, some of them, most of them you're aware of, and obviously the easement component as well. So we would just, I think, add to that, assuming the board agrees. Would the board feel comfortable with just having council just review as part of a condition to just review the easement as well? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we currently state for planning board review. I don't know if we need to explicitly call out town council or just note that that's part of our process, but we would just hope to get something from council that he read it and it looks to him to be what we need. It looks to me to be what we need, but just to have that final.
I understand what you're looking for, so I can absolutely forward this to Dave Dineski for review. So.
Okay. We also, since we last met, had a language about, I think specific to some of the concerns from the meeting, the hearing last week, a couple weeks ago, was regarding the retaining wall and just making sure that didn't, that was in good shape. We talked about the hill grade and whether or not the plans in place for that were adequate. So I think the intent of the condition there is just to make sure that prior to the occupancy permit, that everything is met, and I think that's pretty standard. But there's a cash security determined by the town engineer that would be sufficient to cover the cost for any outstanding work in the event that didn't happen in time. But Fred, I don't know if you've actually considered what that amount would be.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by coworker. What was the amount you were looking for?
In terms of if they were to have a cash security to cover the cost of the outstanding work. I think it was in particular related to the back area with the hill and any sort of retaining. Now I can't recall what was that. I think it changed what was going to be built there.
Well, I don't think there are any change. There's a wall, I think it was around 7 or 8 feet tall. But typically if a project gets to a certain point and they're looking for something from the town, either an occupancy permit or something else, then we would assess the work at that time and prepare an estimate if we need it, if there was one desired. But it's not something we typically do at the beginning of a project like this. So no, I don't have any numbers for you at this point.
Okay, so Lori, the way that it's written, the current condition, that handles that fine. That's just standard process. We don't have to actually state any sort of amount in advance.
Right, because we don't know if there is going to be any outstanding work. So they may have completed everything 100% by the time they're ready for an occupancy permit. So in that case, there would be no performance guarantee. So it's only if something is not complete. Like, for example, if they go ahead and loam the site, but they don't hydroseed yet, then we could ask for a performance guarantee to incentivize the actual completion of the hydroseed and to ensure that we get growth of a certain percentage. So say, 50% growth. So that's a common requirement, and it is something that is allowed in the zoning bylaws and reiterated in the decision. So at the time when they're ready for an occupancy permit, Bob Frederico will let us know. We'll go out and do an inspection and we'll identify any outstanding issues and come up with a cost at that time.
Okay. Does that make sense to all board members? Any questions on that? Okay. And Attorney Gould, is that something that?
Lori was kind enough to send that condition and we're fine with it the way it's written.
Okay. For board members, we have a draft of conditions that I think hasn't changed other than those 2 items since we last met. Are there any comments first from board members on the proposed conditions at this time? Okay. Any comments from the applicant on any of the proposed conditions? Any issues that you foresee or ones, anything you don't agree with or would like to discuss?
No, I think we are fine with it. We thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Okay, then, and also this is a continued public hearing. I want to make sure I leave room for public comment. Would anyone from the public like to comment? Okay, I don't see anything, and I don't think any letters came in, Laura. Did any emails or letters come in? No. Okay, I don't think we have any further comments from the public.
The
on
chair,
this.
can I just add one thing?
Sure.
I said we're fine with it, but I do notice that one of the conditions says, prior to recording the easement, we shall submit it to the planning board for review. If you could just revise that to say that it has already been recorded, and if you want to have it checked by somebody and you want changes, you can let us know.
Okay, so Lori, you must have that redrafted anyway, based on, okay.
Yes, I can make that modification, no problem.
Okay, so we know that it's recorded and we're editing that line. Other than that, did everything else look okay?
To the applicant, yes.
Okay, then I don't think, unless there are any further comments, which looks like there are not, I will make a motion to close the public hearing. I'm sorry, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion. Oops, sorry.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
All in favor, Amy,
aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
and Carrie's an aye. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. So what we'll do is we will go through the criteria for what we're reviewing tonight is a special permit in groundwater and special permit site plan approval. Yep, so why don't we go through Attorney Gould and team, I'm going to remove you out of the box and we're just going to go through our deliberations. I'm going to put you back in the attendee spot. But thank you very much for your presentation this evening, and I'm going to switch you over there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think that's everyone. Now we're just the board here. Okay, great. So why don't we start with the groundwater special permit? Okay, so if everyone has their bylaws open, why don't we go through the criteria? So first, whether we feel that it meets the purpose and intent of this chapter and will not derogate from the purpose of the groundwater protection overlay district. Any comments on that or thoughts? Do we feel that it does?
Yep.
I do.
Anthony?
Yes.
Okay. Will not during construction or thereafter impair ambient groundwater quality or reduce existing recharge capacity beyond that allowed per this chapter.
I agree with all the systems they put in it. Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And by the way, we do have a letter from Fred too, if anyone needs to reference it along the way as we go down here. But we did receive calculation sheets and it looks like that was amended and fixed, and it appears to all be in good standing. Will not adversely affect the quality or the yield of an existing or potential water supply.
I
Agree.
agree. It will not.
Agree.
Okay. And then in making our determination, we shall give consideration to the simplicity, reliability, and feasibility of the control measures proposed and the degree of threat to water quality which would result if the control measures fail. Do we feel that this plan before us is simple, reliable, and feasible?
I
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Great. That's it for the groundwater special permit. What I'm going to ask for is a motion at the end, unless Lori, you recommend we vote on the permit separately? I was just going to ask for one big motion.
I think you can do that all as one big motion.
Okay, great. Special permit. Everyone wants to pull out their special permit criteria. We'll go through that. Sorry, guys, I don't have my copy with all my tabs in it.
713.
Oh, thank you. Here we go. Okay, so do we, after review, think that the proposal is in substantial harmony with the Northborough Master Plan and other plans approved and amended from time to time? I think everybody has their bylaws. You don't need me to read word for word, correct?
No.
Okay. Do we think it's in harmony with the master plan?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Appropriate location for the use?
Yes.
Yes.
yes, yes,
Okay. Will not adversely affect the neighborhood?
Agree.
No, it will not.
agree.
Okay. This one I did struggle with a little bit. And as I think we talked about during the hearing, and I think a couple of us talked about driving over there and just sort of looking around. And I did ultimately think that there were different kinds of properties over there, that it wasn't, like we talked about at the hearing, it wasn't an established neighborhood. And I think the board also made a point to talk about, you know, what we had in mind when we were thinking about a neighborhood. That wasn't necessarily, for me anyway, the neighborhood I had in mind. It wasn't like, you know, a Northgate or something like a, I think the board in the past is worried about those tear downs and the big replacements coming in. And that was my initial concern. But I think after looking at the presentations, and I think it was helpful tonight to see that revision, I do agree that it won't adversely affect the neighborhood. Just wanted to mention that because I want to be true to what we've talked about in the past as a board and kind of put some additional light to that. No serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians.
No.
No,
Okay. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation.
Yep.
yes,
Okay. Proposed use will conform to any special requirements as
Yes.
stated.
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
And plan couldn't be reasonably altered to reduce the adverse impacts of the natural environment, be compatible with historical development patterns, or preserve historically significant buildings.
I think they've done a good job.
Okay, and this does at some point go through the demolition. There is an antique I know the hearing's closed, so we don't have to add this information, but I do think there is an antique building there at some point that goes through the demolition process. Is
Mhm.
there? Maybe not.
There is.
Okay. But that all goes through the right process, so I think that's fine. Okay, so it appears based on the criteria of the special permit that the board does believe that this meets the criteria of the special permit. In terms of the criteria for the site plan. All right, here we go.
716.
Oh, I have it on 7/4. Oh, no, that's the beginning of it. Thank you. Okay, for the site plan. Do we think the site plan meets all applicable requirements of the bylaw? And if everybody's on this page, I won't read through it again.
Yes.
yes,
And then given the location, type, and extent of the land use proposed by the proponent, et cetera, the elements of the site plan could not reasonably be altered to, 1, reduce clearing and grading on the site, reduce volume of cut and fill, and so on, as listed in number 1. Do we agree with that statement?
Agree.
It could not be reasonably altered? Okay.
Yes,
Could not be reasonably altered to reduce the risk of groundwater contamination from on-site wastewater disposal systems or operations on the premises, et cetera.
Agree.
Septic sewer.
Okay. Improve pedestrian, bicycle, or vehicular safety, both on the site and egressing from it.
yes,
Improve access to each structure for fire and other emergency service equipment.
Yep.
yes,
Okay. Reduce visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, et cetera.
yes,
Yep, they added some nice landscaping.
Okay. Yeah, that actually was really nice. The landscaping in particular, I thought was nice. Design review did a good job with that. Oops, I digressed and now I forget where I am. Okay, achieve greater consistency and compatibility with the surrounding area as to building, design, scale, et cetera.
Hard to
Yeah,
say.
like you said before, there really isn't consistency in that area.
right,
It falls in line with that.
yes,
But the plan couldn't be reasonably altered to.
Yeah.
Reduce glare from headlights, reduce light trespass, et cetera. I think that fence.
Yep,
took care of
hopefully the
that.
fence will do that, yeah.
yes,
That was another good call in design review, I think, or Lori. Avoid removal or disruption of historic, traditional, significant structures. I think,
Well, it has to go through the process, right, for the
Yeah.
demolition.
yeah. So. I
So we're
think-
all set.
Does everyone agree with that?
Yep.
yes,
Okay. And reduce obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations.
yes.
Yeah. That's good.
Did this have any variances tied to it?
No.
It does not.
Okay, so no variances are not applicable. So it sounds like based on the criteria for the site plan, that the board agrees that it does meet the criteria for the site plan in addition to the special permits. Are there any other comments that you would want reflected in board deliberation?
No.
Amy, you sent me an email
Yeah, I
about,
didn't,
are you okay?
well, I didn't know, like, what we did with the, I don't have it in front of me. We called out, I have to pull it up. I have it right here. In the decision, we called up, in the deed, they shall define responsibility for maintaining the drainage system. And for landscaping, we were talking about in the decision that the applicant shall ensure proper maintenance of the plantings. I was wondering if that would be difficult because the applicant's gonna sell, where the decision is calling out the applicant has to maintain it. Should it be similar?
I can modify that to say that the property owner shall ensure the proper maintenance of plantings in perpetuity. And then remember that the special permit will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So there'll be a marginal reference that from the deed to the special permit.
Okay, property owner might make better sense, because once he sells it, they might say, well, he's not coming back.
Yeah, that is completely appropriate, and that was a good catch.
So how would that work though when you have multiple owners, or in this case, two owners? Because we've seen in the past where you have more than one owner and sometimes you're required to establish an HOA and then that doesn't happen. If you got one person who doesn't want to maintain things and the other does, I mean, how, is that enforceable at all?
There always is an HOA when
Okay.
there is a duplex situation.
Okay,
So it identifies who the parties are and what the, if there's going to be like a cash assessment that they have to pay on a monthly basis. So that'll all be specified.
okay, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
We usually don't get involved with HOAs. HOAs, neighborhood covenants, not in our We don't worry about it. It's none of our business. The question is, though, if somebody buys it down the road, you cannot trust a realtor to tell them they have a requirement set forth that the plantings have to stay in perpetuity. So enforcement is going to be difficult. We do not get notified when a property changes sale, nor do we do inspections, building inspections on the sale of a property. So Anthony brings up a very good point, is that, you know, the duplexes get built, 2 or 3 owners down the road decide to take out the shrubs and put in decorative trees, goes against a special permit. Who's going to enforce it? Who's going to notice it? Who's going to complain?
Okay. So we're sticking, that condition is changing to property owner. Okay, well, let me ask, did all board members have a chance to review the draft decision?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have any issues with any of the findings of fact?
Nope.
I
did
did not.
Okay, did anyone have any issues with the conditions of approval, whether they were listed there or anything we modified tonight?
No.
Nope.
Okay. All right, then if there's no further discussion, right, it doesn't, did I hear a, nope, that was a cough. Okay. And if there's no further discussion, is there a motion to grant the planning board special permit site plan approval and special permit per groundwater protection overlay district for the property located at 87 and 0 Hudson Street in accordance with the findings of fact 1 through 18 and subject to conditions A through O?
So moved.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. And Lori, could you just confirm that that's an A through O?
It is. Yep,
Okay.
A through O.
Okay, great. Okay, so motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, all in favor, Amy,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Millie? Oh, Millie's frozen. Millie. All right, we'll wait for her.
She said she lost connection, but I'm assuming she can restart. I guess we should have gone faster. It was too good to be true.
All right, we'll give her a minute.
Yeah. Said she borrowed a computer from someone next door. Who was very nice to loan it to her. Here she comes.
We've never had such a cliffhanger before.
Now, I wonder if she called me, could she say it over the phone?
Is that possible if she called and did it that way?
Even with feedback, if we heard a yes.
Oh, Laurie, we can't hear you.
Yep, if all she has to do is yes, then I think we can bear the feedback so that for that moment.
Okay, Millie, can
Okay.
you hear us?
She said the connection won't stay connected, so I just told her to call me.
Okay.
She can identify herself when she gets on the phone.
If not, I'm gonna call her. I'm trying. Hi, Millie. Hi, Millie. Can you identify yourself and give us your vote?
Millie Milton, and I approve of the permit.
Okay, why don't I'm just gonna repeat the motion and that's been made and seconded, and then Millie, why don't we just, oh no. Was that adequate?
She's still here. She's on my phone.
Oh, okay, I thought we lost her. Okay. I'm gonna repeat the motion that's been made and seconded, and then we're just gonna make sure that each member, I'm gonna do a roll call vote, and then Millie, at that time, if you could just place your vote. So there's a motion that's been made and seconded, and the motion is to grant the planning board special permit site plan approval, and special permit for groundwater protection overlay district for the property located at 87 and 0 Hudson Street in accordance with findings of fact 1 through 18 and subject to conditions A through O. Roll call vote, Millie.
Aye.
Okay, Amy,
Hi.
Anthony,
Aye.
and Carrie's an aye. Okay, so that passes. So thank you, everyone. for-
All right, Millie, we'll say goodbye to you now.
Okay, so sorry. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right, we made it through. Many apologies to everyone for the delays and technical glitches and for the cliffhanger, but exciting. Okay. Congratulations to the applicant. Thank you for your patience as well. And why don't we move through the agenda at this time? We don't have minutes to review tonight. Looks like the next master plan implementation committee meeting is the 16th.
Oh, actually, that changed. The next meeting is this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. So that is June 9th.
Okay. And then it looks like we don't have any A&Rs, lot releases or bonds tonight.
We do not.
Okay. And then the next planning board meeting is the 21st. And for that, what do we have now on the 21st? Do you have that handy or no?
I do. So at 6 p.m., we have 180 Barefoot Road, but they are asking for a continuance, so they will not appear. So that was at 6 o'clock. At 6:10, we have the continued public hearing for 100 Barefoot Road. I have not yet received any additional information for that project. As soon as I do, I will forward that to you. And then at 6:20, we have a common driveway at 75 Ridge Road.
Okay. And then our next meeting after that, so everybody knows our summer schedule is different. We won't be meeting that first Tuesday or third Tuesday in July, where instead we're having one meeting on July 14th. And that actually starts at 6:30. So, and for July 14th, do you have that handy or nothing on the agenda yet?
We have nothing on the agenda yet. So
Okay.
we will be placing 180 Barefoot on that night, starting at 6:30.
Oh, okay. Great. And then the next ZBA meeting is June 28th. And anything of note on that?
We only have a couple of signs for the shops. I believe one is for Home Goods or Marshalls. And the other one, I can't even remember, honestly. I haven't reviewed the applications yet.
Okay. For our upcoming meetings that we have, so it sounds like June 21st is really busy. On the 14th, I'm wondering if, since we only have one meeting that month, if we have time to talk about, I know we've received a lot of questions about traffic and not everything's under our purview. There's a lot under the Board of Selectmen purview, but Do you have recommendations, Laurie, on how we could initiate, like get ahead of some of the questions about when the Greendale Mall opens up, when there's an Amazon facility there? Is there anything planning wise we could do or that we should be considering? Or do we meet as a planning board to then draft a statement or something to the Board of Selectmen that we'd love to open up the lines of communication on this? I don't know, any recommendations on how we could create some sort of forum there?
Well, typically what I do for projects that are proposed for surrounding communities is I pay careful attention to when the public hearings will be. And then if it's something that's of interest to the board, of course, they most likely will post all of their materials just like we do on our website. So then we can go through, and then if there are any suggestions for conditions of approval, we can either send a formal letter to their planning board in the adjacent community, or we could actually attend the public hearing and provide in-person feedback. So that's generally the way we handle it. Because of course, it's another community, and so the decision rests with them, not with the town of Northborough. So whenever you request conditions or any sort of impact mitigation, it has to be done very delicately. For political reasons. You want to make sure that you're not offending the adjacent community while still airing your concerns.
Okay. So would that make sense to put on maybe our July 14th agenda to just have a more open discussion about what's going on with adjacent communities and what our role could be, and just let board members talk through that a little bit?
Sure.
Would that be something the board wants to do?
Sure, and we're going to talk about definitions too that we might be able to implement in the future because they didn't go forward at town meeting. I guess, we were talking, some people said, oh, we don't want a moratorium, but you can still do, things and talk about it over the next year.
Okay, so maybe just a discussion, a continued discussion of, or I don't know how we'd call it, but just an agenda item that gives us the ability to have a discussion about it.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, any other business?
I actually had a question, and maybe this came on the market and off the market, but I noticed on Realtor.com that SA Farms was under agreement on Whitney Street. Have they come forward to you, Lori or Bob or Fred? Whoever's looking to buy it?
Nothing. Nope.
I was just interested.
Okay. All right. If no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, Amy?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.